Morning, everyone. It's Mark from Simplifying Life. What a year it's been. It's the last day of 2020, and it's been a very interesting year. I can tell you that. Good in many ways for me in my practice and my life, but very interesting. Let's use that word and many others. Hey, today a video on meaning. Now, meaning is a major topic if you want to discuss it in all its breadth and depth, which I will not do. I was actually listening to a TED Talk this morning that I found really interesting, or actually watching a TED Talk that I found really interesting on what to do with suffering and how it's linked in with meaning. So now I know that sounds cryptic, so we'll get into that. Meaning is an interesting concept. Some people believe there is inherent meaning in life. Other people say there's no meaning at all to anything that we do. Current modern, postmodern, if you will, psychology actually doesn't bother too much with whether there is meaning or not too much anymore. We just assume some people believe there is meaning. Other psychology streams say, no, we create meaning. But this whole postmodern concept is that meaning is a concept for human beings and we can work with it. So we can create meaning, and whether it's real or not, it actually doesn't really matter all that much anymore. So it's a postmodern understanding of meaning now. We're quite happy to mix and match theories as well. Now, my belief, and I'll have to, asterisks, conditions apply, my personal belief is that life has no inherent meaning in and of itself, per se. Life is. And maybe there is one, but then I can't know that one because I just don't. So, my table in my house, my laptop, me talking to you, my existence as such, in my belief system, has no meaning at all, other than the meaning I give it. So, psychology and on other spiritual streams, philosophical streams, say we are meaning-making machines. Out of whatever happens to our lives, we make meaning, we create meaning. And meaning can be societal, meaning can be personal, meaning can be inherent in the religion that you follow or in the philosophy that you follow. So there can be some meaning stuff in there, but it's all either taught or acquired or constructed by yourself. Now, this sounds very technical, I'm sorry, but where does it lead to? Well, if things happen, for instance, someone dies, someone's born, an accident happens, you lose a lot of money, you actually win the lottery, your relationship breaks apart, or your relationship actually starts, or someone proposes to you, or you get a new job, or whatever it is. The idea is that in itself, those events have no meaning at all, other than the meaning that we give them through our big machine that sits between our ears, that has all these beliefs stored in there. So once you start to look at suffering, which obviously in counseling and psychology comes a little bit more up to the surface, Buddhism, suffering, we're all sort of prone to suffering in a sense. What is suffering? Well, in that simple definition, suffering would be something where we have assigned a meaning to a particular event that we have interpreted as being bad, not good, and therefore we feel the emotions that come with that. But in reality, it's got nothing to do with the event. The event was just the event, but because we have assigned it a particular meaning, it has now taken on a very personal flavor of a bad event or a bad year or whatever it is, or a bad person. So how do you work with that? So if you say, look, I'm having all these negative emotions in life and I'm having plenty of positive ones as well, but say that you are confronted with a whole bunch of negative stuff that you go like, oh my gosh, this year has just been horrible, or my life has been horrible in parts anyway. How do you dissolve that meaning? And that was what the TED Talk was talking about as well. It's like, how do you do that? And it was a real simple process that may be too simple to take to its full extent in a couple of minutes worth of video. But the gist of it, and I'm happy to keep talking about that stuff, the gist of it is this. What you want to do is separate the event from the emotion, from the meaning that you have given it. Does that make sense? So you got the event, which in itself, if you're willing to take on that idea, has no meaning in and of itself. It's just the event. Then there's the emotion that you feel based on that event, and that emotion can then link to the meaning that you've given that event, which actually made you experience that emotion. So say that you fail an exam at uni, which actually failing is already, that has a meaning in itself. But so say you get results back from an exam you've done at uni and you have a fail. F-A-E-I-L is on your piece of paper, so you've failed. Now, that's an event. You get the piece of paper back or you get the score back online. Now, you feel a particular way depending on how you want to perform in uni, obviously, but say that you want to perform well, that does not feel good. You might feel devastated, you might feel a lack of self-worth. And then, this technique says, well, now that you've felt the emotion based on that event, what does that mean to you? Can you come to a definition of the meaning that you've given that particular event that had no meaning in and of itself that made you feel devastated? So what is the meaning? You might say, well, that means that I have to do it again, which is awful. Or that means that I'm not a good student. Or that means that I might have felt my parents who were expecting me to perform well. Or that means that I now have a bad self-impression because I always pass and actually get distinctions and high distinctions for my uni assignments, so why not now? So that makes me feel really bad, as if I'm inadequate or whatever. So we assign that meaning to it. And once you start to rip all those things apart, stop that automatic process of an event happening, us feeling a particular emotion and immediately assigning a meaning to that, or vice versa, assigning a meaning and then feeling an emotion, we can start to let go of that, because there could be multiple explanations or multiple interpretations to that particular event that don't have to make you suffer, if that makes sense. So a real down-to-earth example, not that uni one, but a real down-to-earth one could be you send someone a text message and you don't get a reply. So the event is you have sent that text message, you do not get a reply. That's it. Now, depending on your relationship with that person, after a while, you might start to assign a particular meaning to that, which actually makes you feel a particular way. So say that this was a very important person in your life and you don't get a reply back from this person, you might all of a sudden feel a bit doubtful or a bit hesitant or insecure or whatever, because maybe, to go with that theory, you've assigned the meanings like, well, he or she doesn't want to talk to me anymore, or he or she is ghosting me, or he or she is just ignoring me altogether, which is a meaning that you have now attached to a non-reply. So there's that event, emotion, meaning, but what else could be true? And that's part of the technique as well. It's like, first of all, go back to the event, what actually happened, how did you feel, what's the emotion, acknowledge that one. What is the meaning that I have potentially assigned to that made me feel that way? But what other meanings are possible? Well, in this case, what could be another interpretation? Maybe this person just didn't have their phone on, or maybe they saw it but just accidentally forgot all about it, forgot to reply, or maybe they never received it because their phone was broken, or maybe your message actually didn't get through because your phone was not working properly and maybe your provider cut out. But if you just go with the meaning that you immediately give it, you'll start to spin all sorts of stories in your head that might be true, but they might absolutely be untrue, and creating all sorts of feelings of suffering, let's use that word, inside you that are not justified or actually have no ground in reality, have got nothing to do with the event per se. So the quick technique is, when you find yourself feeling bad about something, and don't go with the big stuff initially, practice with the small stuff, because that's the easier bits. But if you find yourself having problems with some small stuff, if someone doesn't answer your text, or someone says something to you that you interpret a particular way that you now feel, you feel insulted or whatever, stop. What happened? What actually got said? What was done? What did not happen? What was the actual event? How did you feel? What is the meaning that you've assigned to that event that actually made you feel this way? And then ask yourself, is another meaning possible? Can I assign another meaning to this that could be more realistic? If not, if I can't do it, what would someone else potentially tell me could have been the case that could make me change the meaning that I've assigned to this particular event. But put it under scrutiny, put it up for investigation, just look at it, do something with it. And I can pretty much promise you, with a fair amount of certainty, that if you do that process and really start to rip the automatically assigned meaning that we all do to particular events, rip that away from the emotion and from that actual meaning thing and start to see them as separate identities and separate entities, we can lower the level of suffering that we experience, because there can be, and generally there are, many possible explanations for the one thing. And then the most effective way of doing or dealing with that could be to actually just ask that person, or to do something proactive, or to check it out, or to investigate, rather than just stewing in that negative emotion that causes you suffering. Now, I know 11 minutes, it's a long video, sorry. So, quick wrap up. We are meaning-making machines. That's pretty much what psychology agrees on, even though there's all sorts of philosophical and spiritual treatises on meaning, the meaning of life as such. But we are meaning-making machines. Everything that happens has no meaning per se. It's an event, and we give it meaning. Some of that stuff makes us feel really good, but when it doesn't make us feel good at all, the way to go with that is to actually start ripping things apart. The event itself, the meaning that you've given it, the emotion that you've felt, and then to say, okay, is this actually realistic? Is this real? Can I reinterpret whatever happened in a different way? Put it up for scrutiny. Would someone else give me a different interpretation to what's happened? And can I give a spin to it, or can I do something with this proactively to find out what the meaning actually was? Or can I calm myself down by assigning a different meaning to it, or actually doing proactive steps, or taking proactive steps to find out what the meaning was, to then have a different interpretation? So to do some reality checking. That's a simple process. And when you practice with that and keep practicing with that, you'll get better at it, and you'll start to become aware of this constant meaning making stuff that we don't have to do. And most people are pretty much the recipients, or the automatic sufferers of whatever we have as beliefs and ideas in our mind. And when we can rip them apart and start to separate them, we get more control, more management over what we do with our thoughts and how we assign meaning to life, and then can actually choose to assign meaning that sits better with us, that's more effective. So I hope that makes sense. As always, feel free to ask me questions. Find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever. Post a comment in the YouTube thing. I'll be happy to get back to you. 2020 nearly over. I've given this year a very interesting meaning, multiple meanings, depending on what month it was, what day it was, what was happening. 2021, hopefully a lot better in many respects. Hopefully a continuation of what was really good in 2020 as well. And hope you have a good one. And look forward to speaking with you in the new year. Have a good one.